everyone, and welcome back to another of my videos. Today I'll be drawing 3 lo-fi-ish scenes on Procreate, and I'll be walking through how I actually use Procreate. So the first thing that I do is to draw a rough sketch of the drawing that I want to do, and afterwards I lower the opacity to around like 20% so that I'll be able to sketch over it. So to make sure the lines are as clean as possible, I first draw over it, and then I enlarge the picture and refine it, and as well as erase any irregularities in the lines. What I like to do is to work in many layers, so every time I'm drawing something different, I create a new layer and do it on that new layer instead, so that if I make any mistakes, I can just erase it very easily. Now to create the shadows on the legs of the stool, I first made those 3 legs on a separate layer of their own, and then I made a new layer and clicked on clipping mask. After that, I chose a color complementary to the color of the stool, and I chose a soft airbrush to color the legs of the stool where I think the shadows would be, and then use the blending tool to blend those shadows out. Now I'll be doing it once more on the wooden bench. So I create another layer, I clicked on clipping mask, and actually what clipping mask does is that whatever I draw on that layer wouldn't show unless it overlaps with the layer directly below it, if that makes sense. And then after that I use the soft airbrush to color it in, and I use the blending tool to blend from the shadow to the lighter area. Now moving on to the fun part, I'll be drawing all the plants to fill up this little light bulb greenhouse that I have going on here. So the first thing that I drew was this marble slab kind of pot, and I drew a lot of cacti inside of it. And this whole process may look like it took a really short amount of time, but I kid you not, it took at least 10 hours. So what I did for this was that I went onto Pinterest to get inspiration about the different kinds of plants that I could draw, and I really tried to copy those plants to the best of my abilities. So another thing that I like to do to get clean looking lines and shapes is to, for example, draw an arc, and then I'll press and hold, and these 3 dots will appear, and after that I'll just toggle them around to get a nice looking hemisphere. And right here I'm trying to draw a marble looking pot, so what I do is to choose a light grey color and just draw squiggly lines with a really light hand so that there will be that variation in color. So the downside to Procreate is that they only allow a maximum of 43 layers to be created, so every time I'm done with a certain segment of the drawing, I'll just merge those layers together so that I wouldn't run out of layers. And now I'll be showing a second way in which I create shadows on my drawings. So everything's the same, but instead of the blender tool, I use this thing called Gaussian blur instead, and afterwards I'll just adjust it to get that blend that I want. Afterwards, I'll adjust the brightness and the saturation, and then I'll go back and forth between adjusting this as well as the Gaussian blur until I'm satisfied with it. For all of these plants, I like to add shadow as well, just to create a sense of depth, to know which leaf is in front of the other, and I really think it adds so much more to the drawing. And over here, I'm drawing this plant called the string of pearls, and when I saw it on Pinterest, I thought it was so cute that I absolutely had to draw it. I kinda really want to get this plant and put it in my room right now. And now I'm just drawing the bird's nest fern, and it's just casually hanging off the tungsten filament of my light bulb, and I think it looks so cute. And lastly, I'm now drawing the wooden steps that lead up to this light bulb greenhouse, and I'm also adding all these wooden kind of designs onto the wooden steps just to make them look more like wood, and I'm also increasing the brightness of these things so that it looks more subtle. And now I'm just adding the finishing touches to my first drawing and adding a reflective texture to it, and I think it really makes it look so much better. And I'm done with the first drawing, and I really liked how it turned out. And now moving on to the second drawing, I'm drawing a matchbox that doubles up as an apartment, kind of like Thumbelina vibes. So as you can tell, I really love working in layers because it helps me to adjust the colors just the way I want it, rather than if they were all in one big layer, it'll make things so much more difficult. And now I'm just copying over my old drawings and putting them up like wall hangings, and I thought that would be a nice idea. And now adding on to the whimsical kind of look, I'm drawing floating stones and I'm just drawing hanging vines off of them. So to make this less of a tedious process, I drew a couple of vines on one layer. After that, I duplicated the layer and inverted it so that it looks slightly different. And afterwards, I did the same thing for vines of different colors. After that, I merged all of those layers into one and duplicated them once more to give this filled up effect. And right now I'm just drawing the cover of the matchbox, and I had a little bit of trouble drawing it in perspective, so I'm just drawing a straight on perspective first. And after I'm done with this drawing, I just pressed the arrow button and I distorted this so that it will look like it's in perspective. And now I'm just drawing 3 matchsticks that double up as street lamps, and I'm just drawing fairy lights that hang off of them. And I think that this looks so cute, I absolutely love it. And now I'm just drawing the carpet and adding texture to make it look more furry. And now for the finishing touches, I'm just drawing the reflection off of the fairy lights as well as drawing areas of shadow to create depth. And now moving on to the last drawing. Since the techniques that I use here are more or less similar to the first 2 drawings that I did, I decided to just put the sped up process here. So here's a look through of my 3 drawings that I did today. And here's a closer look through. I hope you enjoyed this video, and do let me know if you'd like to watch more of these kind of Procreate videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!